Hello, hi. This is Tanya, and I just wanted to make a quick video. You know, it is the end of the year. Some people celebrate the holidays and others don't. Um, my family, we don't celebrate Christmas. However, we do celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ. Just not on the Christmas dates. Um, However, Jesus is the best gift that God could have given to the world. Um, but it's the end of the year, and including myself, a lot of people have been through a lot of ups and downs and stressors and, anxieties and depression and just a lot of shortcomings and, just all kind of stuff. And, for a while, I've been through so much stuff, and I've made, let me be honest, I've made a lot of poor decisions along the way. And I have blamed a lot of other people for where I am in life. Even the gang stalkers, I blame them for where I am in life. And uh, if it wasn't for the obstacles I had to go through, or the gang stalkers stalking and harassing me, and you know I wouldn't be living like this or that or that, you know. And then I have to look back at, like, like people, that other women that are my age. I'm getting older in age. I'm 48. I will be 49 shortly. So it's just like a lot of women my age are established, and they have, they own their home, or they own their cars, or they have these great beautiful jobs that they worked hard for. And for a while I have, like, been in anger, because it's like, well, of course they got this beautiful life because they weren't gang stalked. They weren't stalked and harassed. They didn't go through part of the thing that I went through. You know, they didn't have to move from state to state and, grabbing their kids with no one to lean back on, no one to trust, no one to help you financially. When the world has turned against you, when you are being gang stalked and the world turns against you, if you don't have, like, money saved up, if you are already living, from paycheck to paycheck, and then you get gang stalked and the world comes against you, and now you're stalked and harassed, and it's hard to keep a job and get a job when you're gang stalked, because they do all kind of stuff to play with your mind mentally and harass you, to where either they fire you or you quit. you know that's just like staying at, you go get a place for rent, an apartment or a home. You're staying there, and next thing you know, they'll change landlords, go up on the rent, or they'll come up with something and evict you. And then it's hard for you. Just when you're getting gang stalked and harassed is just a hard thing, right? We all know that. People that have been gang stalked and harassed. And then you move from place to place. So you really can't, and I just look back over my life, like, 48 years here of living life and have nothing to show for it. And yes, of course I can blame, you know, my childhood, or the traumas of my childhood, of how my mother raised me, or things she did or didn't do while I was a child. And I did for a while, till you figure out, like, continuously blaming a parent is actually getting you nowhere. Um, that you must forgive and move on from that, because that parent is living their life, while you're in pain and, uh, not prospering in life because of your childhood trauma. So, getting over that, and then getting over the drug alcohol addiction. The drug and alcohol addiction probably stemmed from the childhood trauma, or just born into drug and alcohol addiction when your family, are alcoholics, but no one says that your family's alcoholics because no one brings it up. They're just in their minds, everyone's just having a great time and just drinking a little bit and, functioning alcoholics and working and, so on and so on. So it's not such a big deal. But, you know, for the holidays back then, when such and such got into an argument, everyone was drunk. No one says it's a problem. It's just looked over. And then, the drugs, weed is really not a drug, right? That's what we're raised to believe, that marijuana is not a drug, even though marijuana wasn't my drug of choice, but it alters your mood, so it's a drug. But you're taught that marijuana is not a drug. But I do think it does have some healing properties to it, used the right way. But, marijuana wasn't a drug. Alcohol was deemed normal, but the drug that I got on, oh, that she does hardcore drugs. Just coming from a dysfunctional family. So I can't blame me coming from a dysfunctional family of why I don't have anything or why my life turned out like this. I have, but it gets you nowhere. Then the whole gang stalking thing. I have blamed the gang stalkers. I blamed God. Because it's like, God, why would you let this happen? How could you let this happen? But I've learned that blaming the gang stalkers don't really add value to your life moving forward. It just doesn't. Blaming God doesn't add value to your life moving forward. It really just doesn't. Because God probably doesn't care either way if you blame him for it or not. Because you have to think that it's probably something along that you did. And even if you didn't do it, okay? Because I've looked at it both ways, okay? So, okay, maybe the gang stalking came because something I did. Do I think the crime matches the treatment that I got? No, I don't. But it don't really matter. And even if God allowed it to happen, for whatever reasons, it happened. It happened. So trying to place blame, doesn't really help you either. Then I just had to look at this whole thing at the end of this year like, you know what? It's all my fault. All of it. All of it is my fault. All of it is my fault, because even though I was born into an alcoholic, drug addict, addicted, narcissistic family, I should have stayed in school and went the course. I should have gotten something for myself instead of trying to be a traumatized child that people pleased my entire life. That worked against me. Everything worked against me. So even because when you're a traumatized child and you're a people pleaser at a young age, you grow up as an adult. When you make friends, you just please them. They're not even your friend group, but you're in that friend group and you're on the lower part of the friend group, whether you know that or not. They don't care that you're kind. They don't care that you're nice. They don't care about none of that, because they're making fun of you the whole time you're in the friend group. But you're with them because you want to belong, and you're laughing while they're laughing at you. That's just how it's always been. And then